Someone is going to die in America, someone very big. That's what God was telling me. He told me that one of the biggest of the big is going to die. And of course, the mouth is open. We all die. Of course they do, genius. Of course we do. Moving right past that. A religious figurehead in America is going to die. Someone high positioned. God called him a man of stature, a man of comparable size. Everything is here in my notes. I'll read it shortly. I just want you to know that God says that somebody's going to die in this country, a man of considerable stature, a man of high ranking. I'm hearing the Lord say a fellow among fellows, a fellow among fellows. So it's definitely not going to be any of these little golden doodles running around here on YouTube calling themselves prophets and pastors and whatever. It's going to be someone established. And when God was telling me this, I was having a quailing feeling. A quailing feeling is that when you see something coming towards you, then you also move back. It feels like your heart is just kind of melting in you a little bit, because it was very serious for God to be telling me this kind of thing at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, when I'm just saying my good nights so that, I can go to sleep. When you start to see high-ranking people dying in your midst, the most unwise thing that you can do as a society, that we can do as a society, is to look and start saying empty-headed things like, oh, well, he was old. He was old. In the Bible, the way I visualize them, practically everybody was old. I'm just assuming that when you pop up in the story, you've got the big beard and some grace, because these people lived a very long time. For them, age wasn't so much about the appearance, whether a person had gone gray already. For them, age was a construct of how robust they were. Most of these people died. If a normal doctor was to examine these people on their deathbed, you would find that a lot of them just died because they had reached the requisite 120 years, 116 years. They weren't exactly succumbing to too much sickness and disease and stuff like that. So in the Bible, these people knew and they looked at death differently. Death is seen to Bible people as a herald. When a Korah dies, when a Dathan dies, when an Achan dies, the man who stole the Babylonish goods and hid them in his tent when God told them not to touch anything when they went to Jericho, but to consecrate the entire city to him. When people die in the midst of Israel, the people respond appropriately. Why? Because they're used to good, healthy, long lives. They're used to good, healthy, long lives. So when they see death coming, they never see death as separate from their God. The same way they used to see birth as a gift from God and would name their children appropriately with the names reflecting, God has given me a man, God has calmed my sorrow, is the same way when they saw life leaving, they took it seriously. They knew that God used death a lot as a punishment. Aaron was the high priest, but Aaron's 2 sons, they went and carried, I think, strange fire before the Lord. They went and stepped outside of their priestly role, and they went and started doing things not the right Israelite way. And God killed them right there. He killed them right there, and immediately he took their lives. He gave their uncle Moses a message for the father. And he said, tell that man that he must not step out of serving me as the high priest to attend any funeral. Are you, as a father, willing to be told by God that you're not going to the funeral of the 2 children that God just killed? So God killed your sons, and then on top of that, you don't get to go there. But that's not all God did concerning Aaron's sons, just to show you how upset he was. He said, you better tell Aaron that I better not see a tear coming out of his eyes. He should not cry, and he should not rent his garments. When you lose sons, it is as if you're being robbed. It is as if your Chase account is being emptied, because your sons carry your legacy in this world. When you are an old man and you can't bring forth sons anymore, your sons, your living sons, are basically a huge, massive currency that gives you standing in the environment. God took the 2 eldest boys, the ones who were serving as priests with their father. He took them. And then he forbade the father to leave the temple, to go to the funeral. And he also forbade the father from any visible forms of grief. He said, basically, I don't want to see it. In an intelligent society that has been properly taught about who the living consuming fire in their midst is, people have rightly positioned understanding of what it means to have God, not a God, not an object. People have rightly positioned mindsets and understanding of who God is. Having God next to you is like having a volcano next to you that is contained. The volcano is contained for multiple reasons. It's contained because, as David said, you know that we are flesh. You know that we are weak. God is immensely patient with us because he knows our mess and nonsense. But then imagine being the one who does mess and nonsense and not recognizing your mess and nonsense. Living in messy nonsensicalness, unaware that that is your nature. And then you start to make assumptions about the person who's controlling himself because he knows you. So he knows you, but then you don't know you. So you begin to be more you than usual until he does something, and then you're all shocked, and then you're ready to come with your choir book, hymnal, song number 18. But why is a loving God doing this to us, Celestial? Self-awareness is one of the greatest things you can give yourself this year in 2024. Self-awareness about what a human being is like. Self-awareness about how we think, how we behave, how frequently we mess up, what we're capable of without the grace of God restraining us, keeping us, leading us, teaching us, rebuking us. He has the right to rebuke us. He has the right to discipline us because he disciplines every son that he loves. The problem is we don't want to be loved according to biblical love. We want to be loved according to nonsense and mess, messy nonsensicalness. And that is not going to work. Messy nonsensicalness, all future seasons are canceled until further notice. God is constrained. God is restrained. But he's not going to be like that anymore. I've always said we're going back to the Old Testament, and everybody gets upset and goes and makes reaction videos because I live among, let's just say that there's a paucity of understanding, a poverty of knowing what the Word of God says. The party is over. God is taking us exactly back into the way he used to do things. And the way he used to do things is people who can't hear will see. It always says in the Bible, and all Israel saw that day the works of the Lord, the arm of the Lord. Well, the arm is not always a friendly arm. God was just telling me somebody's going to die. Somebody big in the religious community. And that is not the only person who's going to die. I have an entire list. It is not only the list that I covered since 2021, starring TB Joshua and other people like that. Starring Eddie Long since 2014, God gave me the prophecy of death over that man, over T.D. Jakes, over Joyce Meyer, over Creflo Dollar. It is since 2014 I've been holding that list. Then everybody wants to come, where's the list? How do we know that there was a list? How do we know that you're not just looking on blogs and getting all this information? America, when you feel what God will do to you, I promise you, my email is in the public. I want you to go and find the blog. I want you to go and find the blog that told you years ago that Russia is going to come here and rape people simply for the fact that the people in this country, male and female, don't like to wear clothes. That the Chinese will be allowed to come here and rape the underage and sex traffic them. You need to make sure that you find me at my Master's Voice email and you send me that blog. At the time that it is happening, you need to locate the blog that told you ahead of time that the entire economy of the United States is going to completely crash and wash away and be non-existent. You need to find me the blog that said that this entire society is going to be restructured into a mind-controlled drone camp, but only after a large majority of people have been put to death in camps. I need to see the blog. You need to find the tape. It's just for my own study and appreciation. I want to look back over my tracks and know where I copied from and remember the good old days when I was copying. For the things that we have said, for the resistance of the people, I'm not even factoring in all the unsaved people who, if you send this video to them now, they will say, this is why listening to nonsense on the internet. This is why you and I aren't friends anymore, Ted. I'm speaking within the church community, the things that Christians do. You contribute to the judgment of this country as much as any unsaved person. Don't ever look at the elites and talk about the elites when you know you have the child you have at home or the you that you have at home. Someone is going down as a sign in our midst that the time of going downness is here. And you can see God is also talking about influencers in this prophecy. And you can already see that the influencers, the people who he says, you may follow them, you may like them, you may love them, you may find them interesting and everything. But God says that these people's hearts and their lives in the back are not right. The sports stars, the music stars, all these people that are at the top, when people hear me prophesying about this, then they mock. They mock the messages and they say, why would God be concerned with Beyonce? And why would God be concerned with this person? And these people, they don't have the wisdom to know that whenever people rose out of their place in the old times, such as Pharaoh, such as Saul, such as Herod, these were the Beyoncés. These were the Jay-Z's of the day. Prophecies came against them. Death came against them. The people of today don't read the Bible. I am burdened by explaining the Bible to people who don't read Bibles. They don't own Bibles. They don't understand the Bibles that they have. And the people in their midst who understand, they won't let them teach them. They don't want them to speak to them. They reject them. And then the people who are being rejected are now chasing after them instead of securing your own seatbelts and moving on. August the 14th, 2024. Idols Will Fall in America, Part 2.